Tonight, a Mississippi judge ordering jurors to keep deliberating in the trial of a man accused of killing Ole Miss student Jimmie J. Lee in 2022. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Pepper Baker. Jurors deliberated for 3.5 hours before sending a note to the court asking what happens if they could not reach a verdict. Well, just before 5 o'clock, jurors came back with an 11-1 vote, but the judge instructed them not to say which way they were leaning and sent them back to continue deliberations. ABC 24's Scott Mattis has a look at today's closing arguments.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Wednesday morning, shortly before 9, Timothy Herrington appeared before the judge and jury in the capital murder case accusing him of killing Jimmie J. Lee back in July of 2022.
Video surveillance from rockets.
Closing statements for both the prosecution and the defense started after jury instructions were given. This where the prosecution painted a timeline.
And how do we know that he is dead? Because signs that his death left behind.
The day J. Lee disappeared, the morning of July 8th, 2022, the prosecution says in the early morning hours, Lee went to Timothy Herrington's apartment for a sexual encounter that ended badly. They say Lee left Herrington's apartment only to return just after 6 o'clock in the morning the same day.
Then, 6:03 a.m., message from J. Lee, Tim Herrington, says open. It's at the door. And that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is the last message J. Lee ever sent.
But shortly before that text message, the prosecution said that the defendant looked up on the internet, quote, "How long does it take to strangle someone?"
How did the state establish beyond a reasonable doubt that J. Lee was not alive when Timmy Herrington left for Walmart and returned?
The prosecution detailed sexually explicit messages between the defendant and J. Lee. Also, Herrington's undercover sexual life. But shortly after that last text message to Herrington from Lee, Lee was never heard from again. And prosecutors say Herrington went to Walmart to buy duct tape.
Most favorable to them is manslaughter. That's the best option for them, ladies and gentlemen. The most reasonable verdict, and the one that's supported by the lack of evidence, is not guilty.
The defense went on to say investigators found no evidence at Herrington's apartment that Lee had been killed. Furthermore, they say after dozens and dozens of searches for evidence and DNA, to date, the defense says no physical evidence has been found.